And I didn't even realize, it's so weird and funny because when I was working overseas is when everything really, really got to me and got me to the point where I came home and discovered I had chronic fatigue. But I was stressed out, dealing with a horrible supervisor, working nights, no days off.
Mm.
And I was in my last 6 months of my contract, and I decided I was going to work the full length of what was left.
Mm.
And so, because I was working nights, I wasn't getting great sleep at all. Okay. So, all of that took a toll on my body and my immune system. And the result was all of that stress and finding out I have chronic fatigue.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to Neff Inspiration, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stephan, Neff. Another fantastic day for an interview. I've got Rachelle Davis with me. Rachelle is a woman who is like the 5% of the population and a bit more out there, where people have lived their life to the fullest, and then suddenly something happens. A virus, an infection, change of circumstances, whatever it might be. And the next thing, you're walking aside of yourself and you think, what the hell? Why am I so tired? Why am I so, there's a lot of pain in my body, and you feel really sick. What we are talking about today is chronic fatigue syndrome and all those other chameleons that are out there, those conditions that can mimic the same, that may be the long COVID, that may be indeed post-Gulf War syndrome or Gulf War syndrome, those kind of things. There are many, many similar kind of situations and conditions out there. And they're so nebulous and they're so bizarre. And often enough, doctors don't know much what to offer. So therefore, I love to have Rachelle here on my show to actually explore the topic and learn about the hard lessons that she had to learn the hard way. So, Rachelle, welcome to my show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Rachelle, chronic fatigue syndrome is such a weird kind of thing. And there are a lot of nebulous conceptions. People don't even know what it is. And many doctors struggle to actually think about it. What does chronic fatigue syndrome actually mean? What were the signs and symptoms that you had? How did they sort of come about as far as you were concerned? Can you shed a bit of light on that?
Sure. Well, I guess you could say the technical definition of someone who may think or, possibly be diagnosed with chronic fatigue is if you are experiencing fatigue and all of these various symptoms for 6 months or longer. So when I say various symptoms, it's not just one. Having trouble sleeping at night, okay, but also for women, it could be hormonal, waking up 3 o'clock in the morning with hot flashes. You could experience body aching. You could injure yourself while, exercising or something like that. Also, for me personally, I experienced high blood pressure. My blood pressure has always been low, not even, just regular normal, but low. And I've always been active. But when I had gone to the doctor and gotten my blood pressure drawn, it was just a regular physical too. It was high and I was sitting. So I was like, wow, that's so unusual for my blood pressure to be high. Beyond that, your immune system is weakened. You may have gut issues. You could experience brain fog. There's just a whole myriad of symptoms where, just one symptom is not going to tell you the story. It's really all of them working together that tells you the story.
And often enough, those symptoms, however, don't just present themselves as the full house here, right now. First of all, there are different quantities of those symptoms. There might be something that really annoys you, and you're focusing on that, and you're seeking help from a doctor who is specializing in that. So, if the gut is the main issue for you, you might see a gastroenterologist. If the brain fog is more an issue, then you might see a neurologist. You might not even realize that all these other things are actually happening too. So that's a tricky one, because that's so often then that maybe the typical doctors out there, your GP, your family physician, or specialists, are treating that one small aspect. You already were alluding to the spread and to the coverage of many organ systems. And that sometimes is quite a bit of a challenge to actually tease that out. So from your point of view, was that a similar journey for you? What was the predominant
Well,
thing, and how did you seek help?
yeah, at first, when I went for that physical, as I said earlier, it would appear as if it was, oh no, I have high blood pressure.
Right.
But I was going to an allopathic doctor that does not look at the whole person, just looks at, symptoms. And
Mm,
so as time went on, maybe in a matter of like a month to a few weeks' time, I slowly started experiencing all the other symptoms.
mm,
Waking up,
mm,
in the middle of the night, hot flashes,
mm,
gut issues, brain fog, just basically taking a long time to process, to concentrate, to focus,
mm,
that type of thing. Um, so it wasn't until I went to a seminar, because I had just recently gotten my certification as a health coach. And so I was just trying to get more education and get out there
mm.
and just learn and absorb as much as I can.
Beautiful.
And so I went to a seminar on stress. And I didn't even realize, it's so weird and funny because when I was working overseas is when everything really, really got to me and got me to the point where I came home and discovered I had chronic fatigue. But I
Mm,
was stressed out, dealing with a horrible supervisor, working nights, no days off.
mm,
Um, and I was in my last 6 months of my contract, and I decided I was going to work the full length of what was left.
mm,
And so, because I was working nights, I wasn't getting great sleep at all. Okay. So, all of
mm,
that took a toll on my body and my
mm,
immune system. And the result was all of that stress and finding out I have chronic fatigue.
mm.
So, when I went to that stress seminar, that was put on by an acupuncturist. And along with that seminar came a free physical consultation. And that's when I was speaking to him about the different things I was experiencing as far as symptoms.
Mm.
And that's where I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. And just to give you some background on this particular acupuncturist, he had did 4 years in medical school in the East and 4 years in the West. So he took his experience
Nice.
and he was able to diagnose that.
Beautiful. And of course, every occupational health and safety person out there says, what kind of organization were you working with? All the time, nights, they let you work 6 months straight. Are you nuts? Well, maybe we should go a little bit more into that. Welcome to the military and to the life of after military contracting.
Yes. So government contracts, okay, you have companies where you work every day about 12, 14 hours a day, but normally I would have taken, a couple weeks off, 3 months or 4 months in at a time. And every 3 to 4 months is when we would take our R&R. That, would be our vacation. But because I decided, okay, well, my contract's ending, I've got 6 months, I just wanted to save as much money as possible, right? Not thinking about what it was going to do to me physically.
Mm,
Okay.
mm,
And it physically took a toll on my health. I vowed to never, ever again to do that. And I said, I'm done working nights. also, because you really just don't get the same night's rest
Mm,
as if you were working during the day.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, there's on the one hand, you have got, of course, the kind of living and working in a place where there are no bombs raining down and where there's no fear to your life, where you have got control over your surroundings. So for me to do a night shift and then being here in the suburbs of New Zealand, yeah, I probably could sleep quite well during the day. Having said that, looking at studies, even in such a beautiful setting, night shift takes its toll. No two ways around it. Frequently changing shifts from day to night and night to day,
Mm-hmm.
etc. The upsetting the circadian rhythms doesn't go down too well with health. Leave alone now transferring all that into an environment where there is at any one time the chance of indirect fire coming in, let it be a rocket, let it be a mortar, or let it be whatever else there is. So yes, this is suddenly a very different scenario that you
Mm-hmm.
have been exposed to. Now, we always think, well, 6 months off that I can do 6 months because we're men, we're women. Come on, look at me, we're badasses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Typically, we badasses have been burning the midnight oil, not just
Mm-hmm.
for 6 months, but prior to
Yes,
that.
longer than that.
I was
Mm-hmm.
about to say, does that apply to you as well? You didn't just come
Um,
from
yeah.
a beautiful life of relaxation and can someone peel me a crepe, please, towards 6 months of hell.
Well, I'd worked, 12-hour shifts before, night shifts in the
Yeah,
past.
yeah.
But there was a few year break there, from when I got out of the military till when I decided to go back overseas as a civilian.
Mm,
So that's why it was, I was used to doing that, because I'd done it before in the past. But I didn't do it where I had absolutely no days off and I was just working every night, and my sleep,
mm,
and I was under so much stress. And that was the biggest thing.
mm,
Um, you don't realize it. I didn't realize it until I got home
mm,
and I was having all these symptoms.
mm. And I think there's one thing which is called stress, and then there's one thing that's called distress, where you're essentially pushing your boundaries so far that even your body says, "Oh, come on, you got to be joking here." And I think that the bullying and the toxic supervisor that you alluded to earlier may very much have contributed to this kind of hell that you semi-constructed yourself and semi-found yourself in.
Mhm.
My goodness. And we often say a bit of stress, that's good for you. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. A bit of adrenaline is actually good for you. It raises
Mhm.
your ability to cope, makes you be present here and now. When you actually push this adrenaline curve higher. So if you've got function on that axis and adrenaline on that axis and cortisol and all the other neurochemicals, a bit of stress is good. You come to an optimum of function and amount of adrenaline, cortisol, etc. If you push that
Mhm.
further, your function actually quickly drops down because you're coming now into a very pathological stress level. And I think that is one risk, that you actually burn out there and then. But in your
Mhm.
case, that was not an immediate kind of crash burnout, but actually coming home, you think everything should be fine. Now I can finally rest. And then suddenly fate delivers you a different set of circumstances. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Mhm.
Mm,
It definitely did. Yeah, I didn't expect it. Um, I was under prolonged stress and I thought I was just dealing with it. And I guess in a sense, I was handling it, but I hadn't realized how it had affected me,
yeah.
until I got home.
Mm,
I was exercising. That wasn't really working for me. Couldn't lose weight. Um, I thought I was going to get back on track as far as sleep, but my circadian rhythm was way off. Yeah, I didn't even know that could happen. I'd never even heard of chronic fatigue syndrome before.
Isn't it? Yet there we are, 5% of the American population on average has got similar kind of symptoms. Having said that, like many of these diagnoses, they are made with significant delays in the sense of fibromyalgia, a very similar kind of
Yep.
syndrome that, however, has a far stronger component of pain, whole body
Yes.
pain associated with it. The delays can be years before a diagnosis is made. And it's not common that it's at least 2 years or so before someone says, aha. Luckily, things are getting a bit better nowadays because there are more people who are interested in functional medicine, more interested in bridging the divide between Eastern and Western medicine, like in your
Yeah.
case, the acupuncturist. But also, I mean, the functional medicine component that I'm studying and working in is beautiful because you step back and learn to look at a person as a whole, which includes the adverse childhood experiences, which includes their journey, as in your case, with such amount of stress that your body is just saying, you know what? I've given you enough little subtle messages. I might as well tell you the whole truth right now, here, bang. And there you run into the wall, and that wall doesn't go away. How long did your symptoms actually start building up with hindsight, sort of crescendo? And then how long did they stay until you were able to start making little changes?
So once I found out what I was dealing with, I definitely did a lot of research as to how I could cure myself and heal myself naturally,
Mm,
because that was important to me.
mm,
I would say maybe about a year and a half.
mm,
But the one thing that I did was, and for anybody dealing with chronic fatigue, was to consistently keep track of the symptoms and how you're feeling each day to
nice,
know when exactly you are starting to see a change.
nice. How
Because,
did you do that?
yeah, without that, oh, you have to write it down. You have to journal.
Mm,
Yeah, you have to
nice,
journal.
nice.
Hmm.
And did you rank your symptoms? Today's 8 out of 10 brain fog, 5 out of 10 depression, etc. Or how did you go about it?
Um, a little bit, not so much as numbers, but more or less. I'm feeling a little bit better,
Mm, mm,
not feeling so good today. And also as far as how food affects a person
mm,
also,
nice.
you can't just go on a low fat diet. Um, Many people try, and I tried to in the beginning, but that just wasn't it. That's not the type of diet that I needed to be on. Whole foods, no processed foods,
Mm,
and no sugar because
mm.
sugar made me just crash. I just had to sleep if I ate any sugar. And that was something I never experienced before. So that was a learning
Because,
experience.
oh, hell yes. Because
Hmm.
ultimately, what we forget is that it is not just one thing that causes one reaction. It would be nice if life is this simple, but it is not like that. You have got your genes that give you a genetic predisposition, and then you have got epigenetics, which is basically all the soup of factors that are flowing over your genes that are switching off certain things, other things. And if you're now looking into that soup, you've got toxins in there, heavy metals, weird shit that we don't even know much about. We know that the amount
Yeah.
of chemicals are increasing in our environment hugely. I keep forgetting the figure of 100,000 new chemicals being introduced worldwide, something in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
You think,
We
what
have to be
the
careful.
exactly. So you have got a toxicology kind of thing, but not in the sense of, oh, again, we want to have one toxin, one arsenic pill. We know that this might be doing something. It doesn't work like that. If you are
Mhm.
having cheap mascara, there will be shit coming in there. Then some washing lotions, there will be crap coming there. Then all the food, the diet or we shouldn't call it food, the weird cocktail of chemicals that we pretend that it is helping our body to grow. Those kind of things. So these are multiple factors that are coming in. And you started to explore those factors. You started you had already an inclination that stress was a huge contributor. And that stress maybe was
Mhm.
the straw that broke the camel's back, maybe. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
exactly. But there were other components there. Um, we often think that working nights you don't reach for a nice healthy salad. You're actually probably more going for the sugar and the muffin and the donut. Is that fair to say that that was maybe part of your 6 months
Mm,
or time overseas?
partially, but not really, because I've always been a healthy eater. And so there
Beautiful.
was time where you could go to the cafeteria or whatever,
Yeah.
and you can get salad, you could get whatever,
Nice.
food was there. So it's
Nice.
not like it wasn't
Nice.
available. It
Nice.
was. It
Nice.
definitely was. But that doesn't mean that I didn't indulge, in
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
from time to time. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
But having said
Hmm.
that, also, even if there's food available, is your body
Hmm.
actually able to absorb it? Because with the stress, we get changes in our gut
Hmm.
microbiome. We get
That's
changes in
right.
our gut lining. So you've got
Hmm.
leaky gut syndrome and all kind of
That's true.
other highly inflammatory conditions developing within your body that are
Well,
ravaging your
yeah.
body. And here you
Hmm.
are. And we live together with millions, trillions of bacteria, which are so gorgeous. And there are funguses living in us and on us, and viruses living everywhere. Now, most of them, or many of them, are really, really good. And if you wouldn't have them, you would be dead. As simple as that. Gut microbiome, skin
Right.
microbiome, sexual
Hmm.
microbiome, etc. Having said that, if your body is ravaged with stress and is already on the sidelines. And then, of course, some viruses and some infections can take very nicely hold of you. Was there actually, with hindsight, were there episodes of infections, or was there a particular short bout of something that you can remember?
You know what? The one thing I did not experience was swollen lymph nodes. That's
Mm,
another symptom, something
mm,
some people might experience, and also like a sore throat,
mm,
that type of thing.
exactly.
Yeah, that's another thing. But I did not experience that. I
Mm,
think, if anything, my gut issues. I might have had some gut issues.
mm, mm,
And like you were mentioning, leaky gut,
mm,
that type of thing. So
mm,
yeah, the gut, your immune system, the second brain, whatever you want to call it,
mm, mm.
that definitely is affected, and you have to address that.
Beautiful.
Your body's depleted, so you've got to give it the minerals and the
Mm,
nutrients that it needs.
mm.
And you can try and do it through food, but sometimes food isn't enough. You know,
That's right.
um, Vitamin D,
Mm.
it's free outside in the sun, for example.
You're so right. You're so right. You're
Mhm.
already alluding to the many things that we actually can do to either protect us from chronic fatigue syndrome and similar things, or to actually start heal us from those conditions. And because one of the problems with allopathic medicine is, well, we don't have a really nice, expensive medication that we can throw at you. So therefore, some doctors just say, well, it's all in your head and there's not really anything you can do. And if you look into some of the mainstream media, from now and then we get the kind of uh, experts, quotation mark, who are looking at supplements and say it's all waste of your money, just eat an orange and you should be fine. Not realizing that there are so many people who are basically running around malnourished. With malnourishment,
Yeah.
you think about concentration camp victims or victims of natural disasters. Well, no, actually, so many of us are running around depleted of vitamin D. Vitamin D low
Yes.
levels are so common. So well done for mentioning that. But many other things, the magnesium, the zinc, many other
Oh, yeah,
trace elements are
definitely.
hugely down in us. And you don't realize it until someone actually picks it up, starts replenishing things, and suddenly you realize, wow, my cramps have gone. I didn't realize that. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Restless legs at night. Interesting. No longer as bad, etc., etc. But it is a healing journey. There's not one little thing. And often enough, whilst you were saying your symptoms lasted 18 months, um, I would say, even had you aggressively treated maybe a bit earlier on with all those steps, let's say everything that you learned the hard way, what you need to have, had you put it in on day one, it might have still taken a year, 18 months for you to improve, because trauma happens in layer and trauma on the cellular level just as much. And your healing has to come in layers. You
Very
alluded to
true.
the nutrition. You alluded to the sugar, to the highly refined kind of rubbish we are eating. Um,
Yes.
what were other things that you could pinpoint early on as things that were helping you?
Well, definitely your leafy greens.
Mm,
Um, you just want to make sure that you get, a good amount of that in your diet.
mm,
Um, protein,
mm,
very important. And you want to stay away from certain fruit. You can't eat certain fruit.
mm,
Um, some fruit is just too sweet
mm.
and
Okay.
it's going to affect you, you know, in a certain way. It just
Mm,
depends on the person
mm.
and what they're experiencing at the time.
Beautifully
But
said.
some stuff, like orange juice, may be too sweet for some people. And that's not an ideal choice.
Absolutely. So hang on, hang on. There's a big difference between eating an orange and drinking concentrated orange juice, where you have
Right.
got zero fiber or a little fiber in there, um, and have got the whole sweetness. You might as well drink sugar water.
Right.
So, isn't it? So we need to be very careful there, only because there is some health label outside on the packaging, or if there is something where you think, oh, instinctively, see, one orange is good. If I now have the juice of 20 oranges and I drink all of it, clearly it must be better. Yeah, about
Yeah.
that. Okay. No, I love it. And now let's go back to the leafy greens. Why do we
Hmm.
want it? Well, the color
Got
green
all
is
that's got
chlorophyll.
all of those minerals and vitamins that we spoke
Exactly.
of earlier.
Exactly. But also all the cellulose, all the material in there that your
Hmm.
body actually can't use. When I say
Right.
body, those cells that came from mommy and daddy. If you look at
Hmm.
you, if you look at the beautiful Rachelle here, it's about 30, 40% of the cells that make Rachelle came from mommy and daddy.
Hmm.
60% about are bacteria and other life forms that make her her. Now, these life forms, the bacteria, they need all those cellulose, they need all that to grow. So, and without them, we would be dead, as simple as that. We live in symbiosis with our gut microbiome and other microbiomes. So, therefore, if you don't feed those nice, beautiful things that are living within you, then
Hmm.
the nice ones die off and some not so nice ones start having a party, and that is not a nice party. Okay.
Literally. Yeah. Hmm.
So here you go, leafy greens, as much veggies as eat the rainbow. Literally as many colors in your food as you possibly can squeeze in, because all these beautiful colors are linked with substances that are helping your body and that your
And
body
avoid
truly needs.
pesticides.
Oh, yes,
Avoid
please.
the pesticides. Sometimes people can't find certain things are non-GMO and
Mm,
organic.
mm,
So then you have to know how to soak your vegetables, soak them so that you can try and remove as
mm,
much of that as possible. But yeah, you don't want to introduce more
Mm.
pesticides and foreign matters into your body through your food.
Oh, Rachelle, you're just a tree hugger, aren't you? That's
I
just.
do. I do.
Well, first of all, we could talk
I
about
do.
hugging trees. That there's actually something about grounding and something good about being
Yes,
outside.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
but I was on purpose derogatory because there are many. Maybe many men, also women in my age group, who think, oh, that's all mumbo jumbo rubbish. What would you tell those people?
No, it is not. And if you want to get your body back on track at any time, I mean, I still ground today
Mm,
because I can get thrown off like that.
yeah.
Grounding will help you sleep,
Mm,
dream.
mm.
I mean, it just kind of clears your mind and your body up because you're receiving that, energy from the earth. And it's very important
Mm.
for healing.
And it sounds we are now going out to more strange things such as energy levels, energy waves, and I might have lost already some people here in the audience, guys. If I take you on a time machine and go back with you now 50 years and tell your grandparent, for example, that one day they will put something in plastic, which they probably don't even know what plastic is, but just imagine something artificial, and there is actually something more artificial in there that we call food. And we put it into a box, and we press a button, and it goes bzzz, things go around, and then 3 minutes later you take it out and it's steaming hot. Your grandmother would have looked at you and said, "What have you eaten? What have you taken? Which kind of bloody mushrooms?" Because those energy forms were not known then. Nowadays, we take them for granted. Wi-Fi, etc., is all taken for granted. So maybe there are also certain energies out there that we can harness. Energy of the sun, the energy of a forest, of wilderness, of the sea, etc., to actually help change our own state, our own level of energy. Because there are certainly days when you feel, wow, on the top of the world, and other days when you're really down. And have you noticed that
Yes.
maybe when you go for a walk, suddenly things change? Well, why would that
Yeah,
be?
just getting out in nature,
Mm,
the fresh air, the sunlight,
mm,
what you're getting from the trees and what the trees are getting from you. It just all works in harmony.
mm,
And it's able to, give you a different perspective. You start
mm.
thinking about things. It's just soothing and healthy.
Also, it's probably fair to say that your mood will be pretty down when you are an active woman like you, and suddenly brain fog and tired and not working, not functioning in the way you are used to. Probably you're pretty down and out. Um, and probably your attitude towards exercise will not be so great. How was that with you when it comes to actually moving your body in those
Yes.
difficult times?
So, the one thing that the acupuncturist did say to me is you need to be outside walking
Hmm,
in the fresh air at least 45 minutes a day.
beautiful.
And so walking is what you would call some of the exercise that you
Hmm,
would want to do because that's what you can do and that's what your body needs. You're not going to be able to do cardio or hit or anything like that.
hmm,
Um, you know, it's not going to do anything good for you when you're already fatigued, you know? So walking in fresh air was the one thing that he told me about.
hmm.
And so that's what I did. I did definitely walked.
And it's so important that we emphasize the need and the want to move your body, because especially if there is pain associated with the chronic fatigue syndrome, or indeed if you're on the spectrum of conditions where pain is dominant, such as the fibromyalgia,
Hmm.
um,
Yes.
we know how much activity. I want to call it activity rather than exercise. Exercise can already be daunting, but just to be active, go for a walk, leave the house, take the steps. And even if your legs hurt after half a flight of stairs, take a break and then do the other half a flight of stairs. You will have registered a win. You will have succeeded in something. You will have pushed your body. Having said that, here you were ex-military, having to pass physical fitness tests, being out there kicking ass, and now you're struggling to get up a flight of stairs because you're so bloody naked. How did that play with your mind?
Yeah, it was different. You know what I mean? Because like you said, I wasn't used to feeling like that. So, I mean, even after that experience, you definitely become more aware of the changes in your body. You know what I mean? And so you can feel, you feel yourself getting older, but then, like if you're feeling a cramp, you know that you probably need some magnesium, you know?
True. Exactly. So you mean you suddenly start listening to your body?
Yes, yes. You definitely you become more self-aware.
Absolutely. And how beautiful is that? Because often enough, we have run through our life completely unaware of all the messages that our bodies are sending us, and then having to pay the tuition fees, which were often tremendous in the form of sickness, in the form of injuries, etc. So here we are. And maybe therefore it's so good that you're so beautifully authentic and honest about what you experienced there. Was it ever coming into your mind that you're nuts, that it's all in your head?
No,
No.
no. And I tell you, no, let me tell you why. Because even as a child, I was interested in natural healing.
Good.
I had crystals that I can remember. And I guess I've never really just taken a doctor's word fully. No, it's just in me. It's been ingrained in me. This is my purpose,
Yeah.
So no, it was not. Because
Beautiful.
first of all, I'd never even heard of chronic fatigue. And I
Yeah.
remember going to the first acupuncturist and she thought, oh, and I was 42 at the time. Oh, well, maybe you're just going through menopause, like my hormones, Yeah, my hormones were not quite working the way they should be. But I was like, no, that's not it. I'm just like, no, that's not it. So no. And when I went to the doctor and she said I had high blood pressure, I'm like, are you serious? There's no way. Like, so that's always been me, my
Right.
personality. Like, I need to know. And if there is an issue, then I'm going to figure out how to heal myself with food.
Nice.
And that's always been my attitude, to do things naturally. So no, I never experienced, because I never went to a regular allopathic doctor with all of my symptoms. Just finding out that I had the high blood pressure, but not with all the symptoms to the point where they could be like, oh no, just kind of brush me off. No, that did not happen.
Okay, so there's something
It was unique.
positive there. That's very nice, and that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. It just shows how unique our individual stories are. Often enough, there are, certainly for me, if I reflect back on my pain. Pain physician journey. I ran a large pain clinic, and many patients came to me in severe pain, but they didn't have a bone sticking out, or they didn't have anything that people could see. And so often they themselves had doubts, and the amount of times that people said, I'm so pleased that you believe me, because my spouse or my employer, etc., they think it's just all in my head and I'm nuts. If I had $1 for every time, would be really, really nice. So I'm pleased to hear that at least was not a part of your journey.
I think what it was too is that I've always seeked to understand why. Okay. So why was I experiencing this chronic fatigue, this stress, but what specifically was happening? My sympathetic nervous system and my parasympathetic in my fight, in my flight, in my adrenal glands.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I seek to understand exactly what is going on.
Yeah.
And if I go to a doctor and they can't tell me, I'm like, okay, I guess I'm on my own. I got to figure this out because their education only goes so far, So, they find out you have high blood pressure. Okay. So they're thinking, okay, the next thing I'm going to do is put her on medication instead of exploring, a little bit further into it. And then, if I went to my doctor with additional symptoms, I don't know what she would have said, but I just know that that was not the end all be all for me.
Nice. And again, I would like to point out that it is often unclear for patients because we don't tend to be introspective. We don't listen to the messages of our bodies. So therefore, we often brush over things or take things that have changed and that are clearly signs and symptoms of a condition. We take them as normal. They don't even register with us. So
That's
therefore,
true.
the data that you provide to your GP, to your family physician, to a specialist, is often skewed. And therefore, it's often hard for a allopathic doctor to actually come up with the right diagnosis, especially if the symptoms are spreading over multiple organ systems as they are in chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia or the other things that we have mentioned. So sometimes, certainly in the past, I've heard quite derogatory comments towards doctors in similar situations, but it's good to reflect also that a doctor can only make a good call if he is given all the information. And I'm not blaming patients, but I'm just saying that sometimes patients are just simply not aware of the importance of certain other things that are happening in their life. It just flew underneath their radar, and therefore it flies
how they
underneath the
relate.
radar. Okay, so cool.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to give that shout out to my colleagues here. Otherwise, it's sort of doctor bashing, and that's not fair.
Right. Right.
But I 100% agree that we need to educate ourselves with regards to healthy lifestyle, healthy habits. If you were to think back, that really stress was a huge component in your case development. If you think back now, well, okay, stress was there. How do you deal nowadays with stress? Because challenge is inevitable. New trauma is inevitable. How do you deal with that?
Yeah. So I just avoid negative people. First of all, yeah. Well, when you think about it,
True.
some people just want to argue all the time, I don't need to argue with you. Okay.
Nice.
I know what I think, I know what I believe, and we don't have to discuss it, or we can discuss it and agree to disagree. It's just handling it like an adult, I guess you would say,
Nice.
not giving people attention that they want, just to get your attention, negative people that, and maybe a negative situation. And you can't avoid all stress, but you can also deal with it. Make sure that you are staying physically fit, so that you do have an outlet. Make sure that you have time to yourself, time for your thoughts. That's a big one for me. I like outside, quiet, time to yourself. I'm not the type of person that always has to have somebody around. Okay. I'm just not. And so I really, really value my time, my quiet time, I will say.
Beautiful. And I think that is so important that you gauge what really truly helps you to grow versus what distracts you, and which is just maybe giving superficial kind of, relief. So it's all quite nice to be constantly surrounded by people, even if they are positive people. If that means for you that you don't have to deal with your own emotions, that you don't have to deal with your own whatever is going on in your life. So if you're trying to escape your reality in with just, either the social media, if you're not in a situation to actually literally meet people, a lot of people try to get the same distraction with the social media and with just other activities that really don't help them if you were to step back. You always have been maybe a little bit introvert, maybe a little bit
Oh, yeah.
Inspecting, investigating what is happening within you, and that actually stood you in good deed here. In you were able to listen and reflect on what is happening now. Maybe I mean, you actually changed and metamorphed
Oh, yeah,
into
definitely.
a very different person now. So
Absolutely.
why do you think, or what do you think were the sort of the key ingredients to you now actually not just feeling better, but actually going out there and shouting it from the rooftops? You have not just become a survivor. From the change from victim to survivor, you actually became a thriver. How did that happen?
Yeah. Well, when I see or read statistics about how many people are actually suffering with chronic fatigue like I did, and the fact that going to the doctor does not yield them, any type of, I guess, relief. And some aren't diagnosed um, at all,
Mm,
and don't know what's going on. They just know that they're feeling how they're feeling
mm,
and experiencing all these symptoms. So I felt like, oh my gosh, if I could heal and cure myself, then I certainly can help other people.
beautiful. Beautiful. Making
People need
sense.
help.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
making sense of your own suffering and finding a why and finding a purpose in life. Because without that, it's bloody hard to get up in the morning, especially when you're full of fog, especially when you're still suffering some of the symptoms, um, and especially when there are still thoughts, negative thoughts are going through your mind, as in, you are a failure. Look at you. You can't even get up. You lazy.
Mhm.
You. Was there an inner critic at those
No,
times?
I don't know because
Oh, yeah, so
I don't
lucky.
know with some people,
Yeah,
I guess you could have a glass of water. And how do you see that? Do you see that half empty? Do you
yeah,
see it half full?
yeah.
So no, I've never been in a situation in my family. We always know that, hey, okay, this happens. You gotta, pick yourself up and keep it moving,
Mm,
And I don't think like negative thoughts. I think, okay, what's the silver lining of a situation?
beautiful.
That's how I think. Yeah, I don't think, I know some people do think like that, but I don't understand it. I don't understand it because I don't think that way.
Beautiful.
I think that everything we go through is an experience and a lesson that we're supposed to go through.
Mm,
That's why we're here, right? And,
beautiful.
after going through that and healing, I feel like, okay, well, I think that's my purpose. I believe that's my purpose to help other people because I was able to get through that.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I think that is where we can grow and where we can actually become the real masters of our destiny by accepting that negative things do happen, that change is inevitable, that trauma is part of life, and that it is up to us how we deal with those challenges. It is taking ownership of yourself. And normally, extreme ownership is a concept of leadership, but it also should be a concept of daily life, because You can't just eat pizza and smoke like a chimney and drink like a fish and then expect that everything is fine. And if things are not fine, then you blame the doctor for it. Get lost.
And
Um,
then you're shocked when you're sick and you don't do any type of preventative, care.
touche, touche.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
unfortunately, we see that a lot. And if at all, things are getting worse, because if you look at the obesity epidemic, it is crazy. You're talking 50% of the US population is now considered obese or even morbidly obese. And that figure
Hmm.
has been going up over the last 10 years from about 40 to 50%. So things are not getting better, although the messages are clearly out there. You could say, well, actually, there is with the modern internet in 2024, there is so much beautiful information out there. There's equally a lot of shit out there. Okay, I give you that.
Yeah.
Um, but yet, people are moving in the wrong way. What's your take on that?
Well, they make the food so addictive.
Mm, okay.
People don't know how to
Mm,
move past that addiction, get over that addiction.
nice, nice.
There's there's always a way to do it. Yeah. There's
Mm,
a way to get past food addiction and any other addiction.
mm,
Also, like we spoke about before, people are nutrient and mineral deficient,
mm,
and that has a lot to do with it as well.
mm.
So, you think you're filling a void with the food, could be, an emotional
Yeah,
or, that
yeah,
type of eating addiction.
yeah,
It's just all intertwined. And then, people are looking for someone to give them that one pill or take care of them.
yeah,
Um, so they don't have to think about it. And then, oh, they pop up with, some disease or whatever.
yeah.
How did this happen? Oh, I hope I'm going to survive. Well, if you're going to just depend on the other person and not yourself, you have to be interested as well. You have to take an interest and you have to advocate for yourself
Love it.
and your body and your health.
Extreme ownership. And whilst that sounds, oh my God, that sounds like a lot of hard work, it actually doesn't need to be, because you have got at any second in your day, you have got the privilege of choice. You can choose right now to either take the steps or take the lift. You can choose to drink a glass of water to hydrate or run around try like a crisp. These are not big things, are they? You can
Mhm.
actually think about, okay, how could I improve my sleep tonight?
Mhm.
Um, I need to go shopping? Maybe I parked the car, provided it's safe, as far away from the entrance of the supermarket as possible, so that I have to walk 100 meters and then carry the shopping 100 meters. Um,
Mhm.
that is already some exercise that you have just created. These are all
Yeah.
choices that we have every single day. Some of us are living intentionally enough to take those choices. We don't take life for granted. And others out there are still in that boat of being sidetracked, being head in the clouds, and then
Mhm.
get the nasty surprises delivered um, at times when, well, these nasty surprises come always at times when you least expect them and when you least need them. So you might as well take an interest in living intentionally. And you are the model of well, having to learn it the hard way. But here you
Absolutely.
are, and nowadays are modeling how to live a life to the fullest. Is that fair to say?
Oh, definitely. Yes.
Brilliant.
Absolutely. Mhm.
Rachelle, and you're out there now helping people. If people want to know more about your work, um, where can they find you?
Well, they can find me on my site. It's askahealth.coach. That's my website. And I have the 4 Core Blueprint course and program.
Mhm.
It's group coaching as well as a course. And the 4 cores that I will say for the blueprint, dealing and healing, from chronic fatigue would be health, lifestyle, relationships, and also nutrition.
Mm.
So my course and program are centered around those items, and I'm just here to help and restore any type of hope that people might be lacking, and just to let them know that this is something that they too can overcome and once again thrive.
I think that is such a foreign concept for so many people. Yet there is no brain surgery involved here. There is no climbing high mountains and talking to dudes with long flowing beards on the top
No.
of the mountain. It is basically learning how to live intentionally and put the right habits into place, celebrate the wins, feel your emotions, allow yourself to be the person who you are. And by accepting yourself as you are right now, you are then able to show yourself love and give yourself the right nutrition, give yourself the right steps to healing. But to do it all
Yeah.
yourself is just a hard slog and very easy to fall off the wagon again. So that's where
Yes.
Rachelle comes in, who has been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and is a bit ahead of you on that path. And I think that's so beautiful. So why not surround yourself with people who can actually really not just infuse you, but guide you and show you the way to the lowest hanging fruit so that you can see some wins and some gains early on. And you realize, wow, okay, that was not so difficult. Ooh, what else can I do? And suddenly when you get thirsty for that, then that's where the transformation happens. You're an amazing woman, Rachelle. Thank you
Thank you.
so
Thank you.
much for being a guest on my show. Thank you for making me smile. And whenever there's sort of a smile creeping up on my face, it means I had an aha moment, and maybe just something that you said triggered something in me. And I hope so many of these aha moments were also out there in our audience. So to implement change, because we can make this
Yes.
world a better place by starting
Yes.
working on ourselves.
Absolutely. And to all of your listeners, I have a free book. So if you email me at getyourhealthylife@gmail.com, you will receive Balance and Boost. It's morning tonics for energy levels. So just some energies to boost, some energy boosting beverages, I'll say,
Beautiful.
for anybody who's interested.
Beautiful. Guys, look down there into the description of the YouTube video and the podcast. Rachelle's contact details and the link to her free book are there. What have you got to lose? Make the most of your life. Live intentionally.
Yes.
Rachelle, thank you so much. And you guys out there, look after yourself. Bye.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.